We're going to skip this break and the one at 50 so that Jack Posobiec has more time. Current Naval Intelligence Officer, formerly in intelligence, says the president likes him and retweets him. He was banned because if you're a West Point Army officer graduate that says he wants a violent revolution and hates America, then you get promoted. If you love America and have served your country, then you're a bad person. But it was great having you here earlier this week, Jack. We need to talk more on the phone the next few days about a lot of stuff we're working on, a lot of big things coming up. So good to have you here with us. I'm going to let you take over in about 2 minutes, but I wanted to ask you, big story on drudgereport.com. Antifa plans civil war to overthrow the government. Link after link after link with videos of mainline leftists and communists saying November 4th, they're going to start killing people, stabbing people, murdering police. Organized criminal activity here. What do you think, as a smart guy, they're planning? Go ahead and take over.
Alex, what they're planning to do here with Antifa and with all of these organizations is they're attempting, number one, not necessarily to take over the U.S. They know they can't overthrow the United States. They know that they don't have the abilities, they don't have the manpower, they don't have the material, the supplies. That's not the real issue here. The real issue for them is they want to make the impression. They want to show that the Trump presidency, the Trump administration is discredited. They want to have this this new line, and the media has tried line.
I totally agree. It's an intro to have him removed, to say, look, America's in turmoil. It's your fault.
Exactly. It's a way to say he's illegitimate. And if you remember, you go back. First it was, well, it wasn't the electoral vote. It was the popular vote. And then it was the electoral college was going to revolt against him. Well, that didn't happen. And then it was the recount. We had the recount. And then it was the Russian collusion delusion, which has now been completely debunked. And so now they're turning back to Antifa. They're saying, well, he promised law and order. He couldn't bring law and order. He's still not a legitimate president. It's trying to make America think that Trump is to blame for all this division. They're now blaming him for all the NFL stuff, which actually happened under Barack Obama. But they want Americans to think that he's to blame for the division, that he's to blame for the
I agree. And here's my final question. It's not working. I mean, disagree if you disagree. It's all blowing up in their face. Trump's approval ratings are up. The economy's starting to roar back. They are getting more and more desperate. Don't they get it's not working?
They do get it that it's not working, Alex, and that's why it's pushing them to become more and more brazen. It's pushing them to become more and more desperate. Alex, a year ago, these people were using warrantless or very trumped up warrant wiretaps of the Trump the Trump campaign at the time. That was the level of lawlessness these people were planning to go to. That they were able to take things to that level. They assumed nobody was going to do anything about it. So when it comes to them saying, are they going to commit crimes? Alex, they already have committed crimes. They've already gotten to the point where they've broken the law, that we've seen them in.
And that's why they're so dangerous, because they've committed so many crimes. They're desperate to get Trump out, not out of arrogance, but out of absolute cornered rat necessity.
Yes. If they see a way to foment anger, to foment division against the president, if they start to see the politics of the American people. So America's center of gravity has always been public opinion, right? The Russians understood this. The Chinese understood this. They understand that because we're a democracy, we're beholden to the wishes of our people. If our people start to lose faith in a government, we lose faith in a president, then it's time to strike. This is what happened under Nixon. Some argue this is what happened under JFK. They're trying to establish that this is definitely what happened with the Vietnam War. They're trying to establish the same type of circumstances, the same type of information environment to take the president out, either willingly or unwillingly.
Show's yours, my friend. Great points.
Thank you very much, Alex. Well, the one thing that I definitely wanted to cover today that we saw, this actually was a massive report last night by, believe it or not, CNN, where I don't know if other people saw this, but I've got the link up. I'm showing it to other people. We've been talking about this Russia collusion, did Russia work with the Trump administration? Was there any information, any meetings, any emails, collusion with Russia, with Vladimir Putin? Well, what we saw now is that, number one, there were a couple of Facebook ads, not very much. However, Facebook and Twitter have now come forward, and in a massive report, believe it or not, CNN, they're kind of cutely dancing around the fact about this, they're admitting that one of the major Black Lives Matter accounts, this account called Blacktivists, was actually run by the Russian government. Now, CNN is basing this off of sources, so I want everyone to take it with a grain of salt because, again, it's CNN, and we don't know. We've learned that CNN is willing to push fake news if it fits their narrative. However, the reason that this report specifically stuck out to me was because it goes in the face of the Russian narrative. It goes in the face of the narrative that Russia and Vladimir Putin were the ones who were trying to get Trump elected.
Well, Obama had hundreds of big NGOs spending billions a year in Russia. As I said, I turn over to you. You're making a great point. Russia's half overthrown by the West. So just because money comes out of a Russian company and does something doesn't mean it either way.
Exactly. And Alex, when I was there in Austin earlier this week, we talked about this. Yuri Andropov, all the other KGB directors before he was the party secretary back in the 60s and 70s, they knew that to break America up, you had to push those racial fault lines. You had to find those racial divisions and inflame those tensions. And so this idea of fomenting a revolution or fomenting some sort of a racial division, race war, the KGB called it back in those days, it's apparently the same tactics we're now seeing with the KGB, well, and their successor organizations in Russian propaganda arms. This is what actual disinformation looks like, because if you look at some of this stuff, and I've got it pinned at my Twitter account, it's all saying that the KKK has taken over the U.S. government. It's anti-police, it's anti-government, anti-authority. And there's basically calls for African Americans to rise up, to throw off the chains of the U.S. government. That's what this is calling for. This is Russian disinformation. It falls very much in line with the same type of racial tensions that we're seeing from globalists, from other organizations. And to your point, Alex, it's not just the idea that because it's coming from Russia, that means it must be Vladimir Putin. We're not sure who exactly in Russia is pushing this stuff. So if you look at it, yeah, we've got it up now on the screen, basically calling for the overthrow of police, the attacks on police, attacks on the government. This is huge stuff. But of course, the mainstream media isn't going to have some major national outrage over it. They're going to report it once, and I predict they're not going to bring it up again because it falls completely contrary to their narrative that the Russians were doing everything they could to push Donald Trump, when in fact they were not doing that. They were seeking chaos. They were seeking division. That is the traditional form of disinformation, the traditional form of psyops that we've seen for many, many times under the Russian government. And so when I see all of this coming out, it makes a lot more sense to me as a trained intelligence officer in my previous experience as to see what's coming out. We've got a lot more coming up, folks. We're going to have independent journalist Jacob Wall come up to talk more collusion between Facebook and possibly the Hillary Clinton campaign. That's right, it's Facebook leaks. Julian Assange was talking about this. Stick right here. We will be right back so soon.
In ancient times, man roamed the earth in a constant state of hunting or being hunted. Introducing Caveman, where cutting-edge science meets ancient super nutrients. Secure your bottle right now at InfoWarsStore.com.